Tommy Tran voicing that package for us, and you heard both of these guys and saw them as well. Did a great job during our draft coverage in Las Vegas. Pete Prisco and Bryant McFadden are here. I'm Chris Hassel, just steering the ship because this is Pete Prisco's post-draft power rankings. Pete, these are your last power rankings until when? Training camp?
Yeah, right after the start of training camp. But Chris, I just want to say this to all the fans that are coming at me on Twitter. I hate every team in the National Football League. Let me just get it out of the way. I mean, I hate them all, every single one of them. So let's get that out of the way. Now we can talk football.
Okay, Pete hates everybody. Equal opportunity hater out there. B-Mac loves everybody, except for maybe some AFC North teams aren't named the Steelers. Let's start with the number one team in Pete's power rankings. That would be the LA Rams. Now, Pete, is this solely because they won the Super Bowl? You just not take anybody out of there because we just saw them win it all?
Yeah, I usually start the season with the team that won the Super Bowl in the top spot, unless there's some huge retirement or something. If Matt Stafford had retired, obviously, that wouldn't be the case. But since they basically have the same team intact, other than Von Miller, they have to start in the top spot. So that's why the Rams are at number one. I know a lot of people are already questioning that. It's tough to repeat. I get it, but they have to start in the top.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Rams, the champions from a year ago, should be the number one team. Look at some of the additions, adding Allen Robinson to the offense, maybe losing Odell Beckham, but yet and still Allen Robinson is a proven consistent pass catcher. And then Bobby Wagner as well, one of the best linebackers to ever do it throughout his time in the National Football League. And then also one under the radar move they made throughout the weekend of the draft was bringing Troy Hill back. He is a guy that has history there within that organization. He commands the slot very, very well. So now if you have Hill in the secondary, you can kind of keep Jalen Ramsey outside as an edge cover man, following opposing teams' number one pass catcher. So me personally, I'm right with Pete. This team didn't do anything that's not deserving of them being number one based on the offseason moves so far.
Okay, so the LA Rams are number one after winning the Super Bowl. Number two, the team that is predicted to win it next season, at least by the odds. They have the best odds to win it. That would be the Buffalo Bills. And Pete, I can't imagine there's any way you're not going to be picking Buffalo to win it all next season.
No, they're the best team in the league. I think when you look at them from top to bottom, and oh, by the way, Josh Allen might be the best player in the National Football League now, and that's saying something considering where he's come from. But they've really done a great job of filling their holes this offseason. I think the addition of Von Miller will give them that guy late in the game, sack, fumble, game over. They haven't had that consistently the last couple years. And then, drafting the corner in the first round. I love what they've done. Khair Elam will be a starter immediately. I think this is the team to beat, not only in the AFC but in the league. I just didn't put them in the top spot because the Rams stay there after winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're the second best team in the National Football League because of their quarterback play, because of the relationships he has with his skill guys on the offensive end. Not to mention adding Jamison Crowder. I mean, he has been a reliable pass catcher throughout his time, but he hasn't been able to function with a quarterback like Josh Allen, so that should be a match made in heaven as well. And don't forget, this defense was outstanding throughout the entire season a year ago. We understand that overtime lapse to the Kansas City Chiefs, but like Pete said, if you're able to add a guy like Von Miller, you have the ultimate closer when it comes to closing out games on the defensive side of things. So I'm right there with Pete Prisco. This should be a fun year for Bills Mafia.
Ranked ahead of the team that beat them in that epic game in the divisional round. The Kansas City Chiefs come in at number 3, Pete, but they lose Tyreek Hill, and that division got a lot better as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough division to navigate, but again, as long as Patrick Mahomes is slinging it around, they're the team to beat in the division. They did lose Tyreek Hill, so that means teams will play them differently this year. Adding Valdez-Scantling, who I like, and, he averaged 20 yards per catch a couple years ago, gives them a speed dimension. You get Sky Moore in there in the draft. But I like what they did on defense. You add George Karlaftis, and if he's a good edge rusher, you bring in Trent McDuffie at corner. You needed to fill that spot. They should be better on defense, and that was the problem in the Bills game. They couldn't stop them. I mean, they gave up a lead late in that game and then got it back miraculously in the final 13 seconds. So this is still one of the best teams as long as Patrick Mahomes is slinging it. I do think they might lean on the run game a little more, something they got away from last year. but this is still a team that can win it all because of Patrick Mahomes.
You know what, Pete? I think we may see a dip in production from Pat Mahomes, from the entire offense, because the thing about Tyreek Hill, the element of fear he provided for any team they went against, and like you said, teams had to play the Chiefs differently than any other team. Now, not knowing that you won't have the fastest man in the planet on your team, they will be attacked in a different way. So will number 15 look like the 15 that we've seen in years past? We have to wait and see. They have made some additions to the wide receiver unit, but those guys are not Tyreek Hill. So me personally, I like their chances to be a playoff caliber team, but I think we might see a dip in production based on what we've grown accustomed to seeing over the last few years offensively from Kansas City.
More pressure on Mahomes, the Chiefs number 3 in Pete Prisco's post-draft power rankings. At number 4, you'll find a team that's always going to be in the top 5 of Pete's power rankings, no matter what time of year it is. That would be the Green Bay Packers, Pete. They lost Davante Adams, but still have Aaron Rodgers, still in a division that he owns.
Yeah, and again, this is similar to what I said about the Chiefs. As long as he's slinging it around, they're going to be in the mix. And, you know, you looked at them and they said, well, where are the wide receivers? I thought they had a really good draft in terms of the wide receivers. You draft Christian Watson to be a big-bodied wide receiver who can run. You come back and get 2 others later in the draft, and all of a sudden you say, hey, that's the Green Bay Packer way. Everybody wanted to pick wide receivers in the first round. They didn't do it. They haven't done it, and yet they've had success, you know, with their wide receiver position. I think they were smart. Quay Walker, big-time player on defense. I think he adds some speed element to that defense. And Devontae Wyatt, look, he's a mid-first round, maybe even higher than that talent who got dropped down the board because of some character concerns. I think the Packers nailed it in the draft, and I think they're ready to compete again in the NFC.
I mean, when you have number 12, you got more than a fighting chance to compete in the NFC, to compete in the entire NFL. But life without Davante Adams is going to be an adjusting period for number 12 for Aaron Rodgers, along with some of the guys that's trying to replace the production that will be lost with Davante moving on to Las Vegas. So me personally, this is a top 5 team based on the moves they made via draft, via free agency. But how good will they be? That is the ultimate question regarding the Green Bay Packers. I think their defense should be much improved. I love their secondary. You got Stokes, you got Jair Alexander. Remember Razul Douglas? They signed him back. So you got 3 outstanding athletic corners, along with, you talked about Quay Walker, pairing him up with Devondre Campbell, 2 athletic, 3 down linebackers. So defensively, I think they might have improved. But offensively, not having 17, it might be a dip in production as well.
Yeah, there was a point in time not too long ago where we thought maybe the Packers would be without Aaron Rodgers, and we thought the Bucs were going to be without their number 12, TB12, the best quarterback of all time, the best player of all time in NFL history. Tom Brady retires, comes back. New head coach, though, Pete. Todd Bowles now the head coach. Will that affect things at all?
I don't think it will, because, you know, Byron Leftwich is still in there as the offensive coordinator. I don't think the offense is going to change that much. And we know Todd Bowles is a defensive guy, so that's not going to change on that side of the ball. So I don't think it will change that much. As long as Tom Brady's taking snaps, they're a factor in any race, including in their own division, where I think they're the clear favorite. But in the NFC as well. Grabbing Logan Hall in the second round was important for them. I thought that was the one hole on their defense, and they filled it. And then on offense, you know, the left guard spot, a little unsettled there. I think Luke Gedeke is a guy I really liked. They picked him in the second round as well. This team is built to compete, and I think they will compete as long as Tom Brady's under center.
Yeah, when you look at their draft, they all attacked the needs, and they were able to hit the needs. Getting Tom Brady back, you know exactly what that means for Tampa Bay. They will be in the playoffs, barring anything drastic happen, injury related. Defensively, I like what they're doing as well. Some of their key pieces are right intact. Heck, they might even get Gronkowski back into the lineup, you know, coming out of retirement, post-retirement again, to say the least. So getting Russell Gage, taking him from the Atlanta Falcons, adds another receiver to their offense. You will get a healthy Chris Godwin along with Mike Evans. So playoff Lenny is there as well. I forgot about Leonard Fournette. So yes, this is a top 5 team going into the season based on the moves via free agency and the draft.
And you saw the odds to win the Super Bowl. Pete's top 5 teams are the same top 5 teams atop the odds, just in a little bit different order. The Bills at the top in the odds, the Bucs right behind them. But Pete has The Rams on top because they won it all. Well, they're plus 1,200 to repeat. The Bills number 2, followed by the Chiefs, Packers, and Bucks in his top 5 post-draft power ranking. The Bengals are right there at number 6. Pete, in your opinion, did they solidify that offensive line? Is that no longer a concern?
Oh, it's no longer a concern. Particularly if Jackson Carman, the second-year guard, develops at left guard. I think he has the talent to do that. Then across the board, you're going to really have a good unit. Jonah Williams will be the starting left tackle. You mentioned the guys they added. I think Lyle Collins is big. So the offensive line will be much, much better, which means the offense will be much, much better. And I think that's a big thing. And defensively, you know, that was a unit last year that was kind of slow to get together and come together, but we saw it throughout the postseason and on through the Super Bowl that they were much improved, and I think that's important for them because there's a lot of young players on that defense. You added a couple good pieces. Daxton Hill, the safety from Michigan, is going to be a guy that can factor in either at corner in the nickel or maybe even in the deep middle, depending on what they do if he can beat out Von Bell. So this is a good team, talented team, and we know Joe Burrow can get it done in crunch time. So I love the Bengals. Chris, 2-8, baby, 2-8.
I know recent history tells us that the team that loses the Super Bowl the previous year, they struggle. But I think that might be it might be a change of heart when you look at what they've done. And I agree with Pete Prisco. Making some of the moves they needed to make was a necessity. Being able to protect their franchise quarterback better, I think they will. I think defensively they have some pieces as well in the secondary, adding depth at the safety positions. And don't forget about adding Hayden Hurst to this offense that's loaded at the wide receiver position with star power. He's more athletic than CJ, and he has a higher ceiling, in my opinion, than former first rounder. So that's another target for Joe Burrow. So it's going to be a very, very tall task within their division alone, the AFC North. But once again, this team will be competitive, and they will open a lot of eyes.
Yeah, especially now. They're going to have the bullseye on their back. They're not going to be sticking up on anybody next season. How about the Chargers? And Pete, this is a team that really added to their defense. We know what they have in Justin Herbert, but going out and getting Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson to help that defense, huge for this team.
And they added 2 guys in the middle of that defense in Austin Johnson, and also Sebastian Day. I mean, those guys, Joseph Day, those guys are big physical players. And the one problem the Chargers had last year, the big problem, was stopping the run. Well, now they can stop the run, and I think that's important. That'll allow, Bosa and Mack to tee off and go after the quarterback. I love what they've done in this offseason. And then they came back and drafted an offensive lineman in the first round, Zion Johnson. I really liked him. They're going to be much better on the offensive line. They still have an issue at right tackle. The one knock on offense is speed outside. You know, they don't have that true burner on the outside, so that's a little bit of a concern. But Justin Herbert's going to be thrilled that they've upgraded on the interior of that offensive line, because at times last year he took a beating.
This division, incredible. The Chiefs came in at, number 3 in Pete Prisco's power rankings. Chargers, number 7. B-Mac, how about Pete having the Broncos there at 8? That's 3 teams in the division in his top 8. Russell Wilson now, your guy, the quarterback.
Yeah, high expectations with the Denver Broncos. Remember, this team did not make the playoffs. We're not close to making the playoffs, but Pete has them in the top 10 based on the addition of Russell Wilson. When you can combine him with what they have at the skill positions on the offensive end, it should be a fun, entertaining year for the Denver Broncos. And don't forget about the opposite side, the defensive side of things. Adding Randy Gregory to Bradley Chubb, they will be a duo of pass sackers in the National Football League. So this is going to be all about Russell Wilson, and can they protect Russell Wilson? I think the 2 most, when you look at the pressure points on their offense, Garrett Bowles and Billy Turner will have probably the most pressure on their plate out of anyone in their offense, because it's their job to make sure Russell stands comfortable in the pocket and playing in their division. If you cannot protect your quarterback back against some of the elite pass rushers they will see twice a year, it's going to be a long, long season.
I was told don't follow, but you want me to follow, I'll follow. Look, getting Russell Wilson's outstanding for this team. It changes the entire dynamic of the football team. If that was Drew Lock in there, you'd have all kinds of problems. Now you have Russell Wilson. It just changes the entire dynamic of the football team. They are good enough to push for the division title, good enough to win it all.
Pete, that was just a classic case of maybe a better choice of words from the producer, but he did tell you to follow. He said, you'll follow, not no follow. A learning experience
It sounded
for
like
everybody.
no follow.
All right, no follow on this one, Pete. We're going to BMAC, your number 9 ranked team. That would be the San Francisco 49ers. BMAC, Debo's unhappy with what's going on there. The quarterback situation, would you say it's unsettling?
Yeah, and that's why I would question, Pete, having San Francisco in the top 10 at number 9. We don't know exactly what Trey Lance will look like as the full-time quarterback. We don't know exactly what will happen with Deebo Samuel if he is a part of this team by the time the season starts. So there is a lot of unknowns, specifically on the offensive end, that I'm concerned with. You still have Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster, but we feel like he won't be the starting quarterback. This will be a competitive team. Don't get me wrong, but when it comes to being how competitive, I don't know. The unknown is with the quarterback, Trey Lance. Can he handle that workload, being the number 1 guy for 4 quarters? We have to wait and see.
Rounding out the top 10 in Pete Prisco's post-draft power rankings, the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson wasn't happy that they traded Hollywood Brown, but it seemed like everybody loved what they did in the draft. Pete gave them an A+. What do you think, Bryant?
I mean, they did a great job drafting guys that fit what the Ravens love to do on both sides of the football. But having them number 10, I'm a bit concerned with that because of the inability to add weapons for Lamar Jackson. They drafted 2 tight ends, 2 athletic tight ends. But get this, they traded away one of their best pass catchers in Hollywood Brown. So all the pressure's on Rashad Bateman to be able to deliver as a number 1 guy. That's a tall task to ask of a man who's going into his 2nd year. So I'm a bit concerned at that position. Defensively, we know they're going to harass opposing offenses. But when it comes to playing against playoff caliber team that has stout defensive players on all 3 levels, will these wide receivers be able to deliver for Lamar Jackson? When you rank the wide receivers in the AFC North, it's easy. You will put the Baltimore Ravens at that position dead last when you compare them to the other teams in their division and when you look at the wide receiver power that they have.
Speaking of divisions, let's go to the NFC East because there's a bunch of teams that Pete has ranked right in a row here. And ranked number 1 in that division, number 11 overall, the Philadelphia Eagles, Pete, ahead of the Cowboys. How much does that have to do with what they did in trading for A.J. Brown?
Well, it has something to do with it, but I think what the Eagles have done the last couple of years has been impressive. They've taken a bunch of young guys and really developed them. And I'll give you an example. Left tackle Jordan Mailata. They signed him to a long-term extension. It gives them a pair of bookend tackles with Lane Johnson. That's one of the best tackle tandems in the league. You still have veteran center and Jason Kelsey. They're going to be able to move the football. The receivers are big time now when you add A.J. Brown to Devontae Smith and the rest of that group. They can run the ball with Sanders. And then you flip it over to the defense. You talk about getting Jordan Davis in the 1st round on the defensive side. I mean, he's a power player. He's going to dominate on the interior. Nakobe Dean probably went where he should have went in the 3rd round, can still contribute. One concern for the Eagles, or actually 2. One cornerback spot seems a little wide open. I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe bringing a veteran there to compete. And this makes it all about Jalen Hurts. They've set the table. Now it's his time. He has a year to show he can be the long-term answer. I think he showed improvement last year. I think he's going to be even better this year. This is the team to beat in the division.
I'm right there with you. I was so impressed with what they did in the draft, surprising everyone to finally go get their number 1 wide receiver in A.J. Brown, who's still a guy who's still in the prime of his years. You get a run stuffer with Big Davis and then adding the Nakobe Dean, as you mentioned. Don't forget about Hassan Reddick. He's a guy that can put pressure on opposing quarterbacks and also get sacks, by the way. So me personally, on paper, from top to bottom, this is the best team in the NFC North. Yes, all the pressure will be on Jalen Hurts, but I think he's ready for the task. And hopefully Miles Sanders can stay healthy for a full year. Because if he's healthy, you have to like their big 3 with the quarterback Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, and A.J. Brown.
And right after the Eagles come the Dallas Cowboys. Pete, would you say they did anything this offseason to better themselves? Not everybody can get better. Some teams get worse. Have the Cowboys done anything to get better?
I really like their draft. I think, Tyler Smith they got pinged for that one. He's going to start at left guard. They give him a Smith left side of the line, 2 power players. If they can stay healthy over there with Tyron Smith, he's had some injury issues. They got Jalen Tolbert, who I really like to play receiver. He's an impressive guy. And Sam Williams, who came in the second round, he's a big-time pass rusher, can replace Randy Gregory. They also brought in Dante Fowler, who's a big body, can provide some pressure as well. I don't think they've gotten worse. The concern with Dallas is a couple things. One, they're starting to get a little bit of age in some spots. Two, can they stay healthy? They've been banged up in each of the last couple years, and that's really taken a toll on the franchise. So I think health and can guys still play to a high level, particularly a guy like Tyron Smith, as they get older.
Yeah, and talking about health, I mean, the majority of their injuries has happened on the offensive line. And when their offensive line was not intact in recent years, they struggled. Not just running the football, but throwing the football as well. So hopefully they can keep the continuity there on the offensive line and those guys healthy. I'm really intrigued to see how CeeDee Lamb will handle being the #1 wide receiver. No Amari Cooper. They lost Cedric Wilson as well. Now CeeDee Lamb will get the opposing team's secondary best effort or best cover guy, along with more pressure to Michael Gallup. And don't forget they added James Washington from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So life will look a little different for those pass catchers, knowing that Amari Cooper won't be in the lineup. But I think CeeDee Lamb is ready for that task.
And how about a third straight team from that division stacked up 11, 12, 13 here for Pete Prisco in his power rankings? Eagles 11, Cowboys 12, Commanders 13. Pete, do you think Carson Wentz gives that team a chance to win this division?
Well, I thought they had a chance to win a division last year with whoever played quarterback, whether it was going to be Fitzpatrick or Heineke, but the defense fell off. That was the problem. We thought that defense was going to be dominant, and it wasn't. They had all kinds of issues at corner early in the year as guys adjusted to playing in that scheme. They didn't get the pass rush they thought they would get from Chase Young. I think they come back, and those guys are that much better. The secondary will be adjusted to the system now. You'll see a better Chase Young. You'll see a better Montez Sweat rushing the passer. The inside guy is very good. And then you flip it to the other side. Carson Wentz is better than whatever you would have put out there last season. So I think that's an upgrade. I do think getting Jahan Dotson will help the passing game. They have some flyers now. You have Dotson. You have De'Ami Brown. He's now in his second year. He can really fly. And we know Terry McLaurin's a big-time receiver. So they've set the table for Carson Wentz. I think he'll play well. I think they're going to push for the division title.
All right, we'll see how far down we go to get to the last team in that division, the New York Giants. Up next at 14, and 14 teams make the playoffs. It's the Indianapolis Colts, and they were right there, Pete, in that position last year. Carson Wentz could not lead them to a victory against the Jaguars. They missed out on the postseason. I think the question is, how close are they to being a fringe playoff team where you have them and taking that big next step as a contender in that league where the fans want them to be?
Yeah, I think they're the best team in that division, but I don't know if they have enough to contend for a Super Bowl. Although once you get in, anything can happen. And when you have a veteran quarterback like Matt Ryan, he is an upgrade over Carson Wentz. We know they're going to run the ball. The offensive line, they're probably going to start a rookie left tackle in Bernard Ryman, who they drafted last week. That's always a concern. And do they have enough speed? They drafted Alec Pierce, who I like and can run, but last year teams sat on everything. They didn't scare anybody down the field. And on the flip side, everybody points to Carson Wentz in that last game against the Jaguars. The defense let them down too. They have to be better rushing the passer. That was not a good Jaguar offense, and they moved the ball and made Trevor Lawrence look really good in that game. So that side of the ball has to be better as well. But I think they're the best team in the division. I do not think that they're one of the best teams in the AFC, though.
Okay, Colts 14, and at 15, and this would be a spot that you would think would miss the postseason or be right on the edge of it. B-Mac, Pete has the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson now taking over at quarterback.
Yeah, I think this is a deserving spot for the Browns, not knowing exactly what will happen with Deshaun. I do believe he will be suspended, and if that's the case, it puts a lot of pressure on Jacoby Brissett. But this is a talented team because they have improved at the quarterback position with Deshaun Watson, along with what they already had intact. I think this is a deserving spot. One gauntlet they will have to deal with, Pete, is within their division. Playing in the AFC North, one of the toughest division in the National Football League. If they come out on top, you better believe they will have to earn it.
I'm Amanda Guerrero. Let's welcome back in Pete Prisco and Bryant McFadden going through Pete's power rankings. Pete, coming in at number 16, we have the Titans, but we got some sound today from Ryan Tannehill talking about his responsibilities when it comes to Malik Willis. Let's take a listen.
We're competing against each other. We're watching the same tape. We're doing the same drills. I don't think it's my job to mentor him, but if he learns from me along the way, then that's a great thing.
We're competitors. I do not have to mentor him. Pete, let's start with you here on the Titans. Talk to us about them coming in at number 16 on your power rankings and also your reaction to what we heard from Ryan Tannehill there.
Well, it isn't his job to mentor him, but I guarantee you when they get out on the football field, he will help him. He was helped at some point in his career. I think that's something that, you don't have to say you're going to do it, but you do it naturally. If you don't, there's been times, believe me, there's been times when guys have been put off by that. I mean, there was, back in the day, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers weren't exactly chummy in the beginning of their relationship. So I understand that a guy's trying to take your job. Are you going to help him and let him take your job? Probably not. But I think once as a competitor you get out there, you'll be fine. I don't think he necessarily really meant that. But he's not going to go out there and say, hey, come out to my house and I'll teach you everything you need to know to take my job. I wouldn't do it either. So if anybody's out there wanting my job, I'm not helping you. I'm kidding. I've helped a lot of guys in my career. Anything
else on them being 16, Pete?
Well, look, they're one of those teams that, and Bryant has the best description of them than anybody, an in the way team. They're always in the way. They're good enough to get to the postseason. They're tough enough to get to the postseason. The question always is the same. Can they throw it well enough to win in the postseason? And so far, that hasn't been the case with Ryan Tannehill, which is obviously why they drafted Malik Willis in the first place.
Let's go to the Raiders coming in at number 17 on Pete's power rankings there. He got a new head coach. Look, there's a lot of things to like about this Raiders team, B-Mac. You got Devontae Adams now, but the AFC West, it's not a picnic.
No question. It's not. It won't be a picnic, but you better believe the Raiders will have a lot of say-so of what will happen in that division. I'm surprised Pete has them at number 17. I mean, adding Devontae Adams, that's a huge addition. You pair him up with Darren Waller and some of the other pass catchers they have on the offense. Derek Carr has really been playing some good football over the last few years. I think that will continue under Josh McDaniels. And I love adding Chandler Jones, pairing him up with Max Crosby. You got two outstanding, prolific edge rushers that will get a lot of sacks and a lot of pressures. So this is a team that made the playoffs a year ago. Remember, they made the playoffs a year ago. Tough loss to Cincinnati, but I do believe they will have playoff aspirations once again.
B-Mac, surprise there. The Raiders coming in at number 17. Pete, let's go to the team you have at 18. That would be the New England Patriots. Look, the Patriots don't care what anyone thinks. They're going to stick to their plan in the draft. They did just that. Not a ton of moves this offseason. Pete, your overall thoughts about the Patriots and Mac Jones heading into year 2?
Well, that is the New England way. They went kind of off script last year, and they spent a bunch of money to try and get guys in after COVID, and they got to the postseason, but then they fell apart in the postseason. I think they need to be better in a lot of areas. But remember, late in the season, there was concern about Mac Jones. I think early in the year, keep an eye on him. This has to be a good start for him, or else you're going to start hearing rumblings that he kind of careered early in his career and then kind of leveled off. I don't think he will. I think he's a smart, accurate quarterback. He'll be fine. I just wonder about certain spots like the offensive line. They drafted Cole Strange in the first round. He's going to start right away. Is he good enough to start? I do like Tyquan Thornton, who they picked in the second round. But this is a team that's had a lot of guys in the last couple years get old. And some of those guys are there and some of them are gone. It'll be interesting to see how Belichick and group coaches up that defense to see if they can stop the Buffalo Bills.
Well, for the very first time in a long time, I think it's safe to say the Patriots won't have an easy task in their division, Pete. I think every team in their division has gotten better. Not to mention your best team is in their division in the Buffalo Bills. And because of that, I think they will go through some trials and tribulations throughout this year. And I didn't really like their draft. I think they had a strange draft in drafting Cole Strange first. Many people had a third or fourth round grade on him. The best thing I think they did was adding Devontae Parker, trading for him and getting a nice return along with what he will provide to their offense. I really like their move, but I think this is a deserving spot because, granted, there will always be a competitive team, but I think for the very first time in a long time, they're going to realize the teams in their division they have gotten better.
Pete gave the Patriots a C- for their draft. He also gave the same grade to the team that's coming behind them at number 19, the Arizona Cardinals here. Look, the team's been all drama. First it was Kyler Murray. Now we have DeAndre Hopkins out for the first 6 games of the season. BMAC, I want to start with you here. What can we expect from this Cardinals team with all of this drama surrounding them?
Well, I think the best way to answer that question, Amanda, is go look at the final 6 ball games that DeAndre did not participate in, and you saw a very, very inconsistent offense. Stagnant in the red zone. Kyler Murray did not look like the Kyler Murray in the beginning of the year, and I think that was a story. That's a storyline of what potentially will come with this offense, knowing that DeAndre Hopkins won't be in the lineup. So me personally, I'm surprised they're at 19. I think they should be somewhere in the mid to late 20s based on the news alone, because DeAndre Hopkins is like the transmission for the car. If you don't have a good transmission, that car's not going to go very, very far. Oh, by the way, they lost Christian Kirk and Chandler Jones. So me personally, I think it's going to be a difficult year for this team, especially in the first 6 ball games without Hopkins.
Yeah, not having Hopkins is going to hurt, but they played a lot of last season without him. They didn't play well without him, but I think this puts more pressure on Kyler Murray. Look, you want the new deal. You want to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. A, stay healthy. Remember, he's been banged up the last couple seasons, and it's impacted him late in the season. And B, make plays. Become the quarterback that they expect you to become, even if Hopkins isn't there. And I know that's, easier said than done, but there are guys who rise their game up a little bit and carry when guys get hurt. Let's see if he could do it.
Behind them, coming in at number 20, are the Vikings. Another first-year head coach here, Kevin O'Connell. PMAC, I want to start with you. Your co-host, your cousin, your Patrick Peterson, a member of the Vikings. Tell us what you like about this team and maybe some of your biggest questions about them.
I mean, I like some of the additions they made via free agency, going to get Zadarius Smith, who used to play for the Green Bay Packers, so you were able to take away a key contributor from your divisional foe and add to your defense. Danielle Hunter and Smith might be 2 outstanding pass rushers for the Minnesota Vikings. You look at what they did via the draft. Lewis Seen in the first round. I love him getting Booth in the second round. You got 2 guys that eventually will be in that lineup in the secondary. And I think we will see a different Kirk Cousins under Kevin O'Connell, along with all the skill guys that he has surrounding him. So Kirk Cousins played real well last year. Granted, it didn't get them far because they had so many letdowns in the fourth quarters of ball games a year ago. But I think this team will be more consistent, and they will be a playoff caliber team.
We'll go from your cousin's team to your former team. Let's talk about the Steelers. New era, first season without Big Ben. You got Kenny Pickett in the draft. How do you feel about them coming in at 21 on Pete's list, BMAC?
I mean, I think this is deserving because of the quarterback position, the unknown. We're hearing that this will be an open competition. We felt like Mitchell Trubisky would be the starting quarterback, but now we're hearing it will be a competition. And who's to say Kenny Pickett won't come out on top that spot at the end of training camp? But I like this team. I mean, you look at the wide receivers they added nice weaponries for the quarterback, whoever the quarterback is. You got Najee Harris. They added some pieces of the offensive line. And defensively, they will be a stout group as long as they're healthy. That has to be the key for their defense. Staying healthy, getting a healthy Stephon Tuitt along with Cam Hayward. Man, that front would be a nightmare for any opposing offensive line unit they face. So I think this is the right spot for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right spot for them, coming in behind them at number 22 on Pete's power rankings. The Saints. Pete, you get a healthy Jameis there. They filled some holes in the draft. You got your pal Honey Badger coming to town. Do they have enough to compete now?
Oh, I think they could compete for a playoff spot. I don't know if they could compete for much more than that. I mean, look, the division isn't very good other than the Bucs, and so I think they can compete in the division to get a wild card spot. But this is all about Jameis Winston. We've seen him inconsistent at times in his career, and I like Jameis. I think this is a chance for him to show people, hey, I can take a team to the postseason, and maybe once you get in the postseason, do some damage. They're still talented on defense. There is some age creeping in on that side of the ball. You mentioned Honey Badger. He's up there as well with Cam Jordan and Mario Davis. Those guys aren't kids anymore. So that's what I think their thought process was. We have a chance to still go for it. Let's go for it. And I think that's what they're trying to do because some age is starting to become a problem on that team.
Miami Dolphins coming in at number 23. I will tell you, during the first half of the show while you guys were doing this, we had many an argument upstairs about the Dolphins into a look. Tua now has all the weapons, including Tyreek Hill. Here you go. Pete, we'll start with you. They haven't been to the postseason since 2016. How much faith do you have in this Dolphins team right now?
Well, it's all about Tua. I mean, you mentioned it. They've set the table for him. He's got the speed receivers. They're a track team. Give him a baton. They're going to win a 4x100 meter relay somewhere. That's how fast they are. You get Waddle. You have Hill. You can stretch the field. The offensive line will be improved with Armstead at left tackle and some of the growth of the younger players. So Mike McDaniel will run the ball no matter what because that's what they do. It doesn't matter who carries it. So you look at this team and you say, okay, here you go. Well, it's all on Tua. He has to develop. He has to be better than he's been. And that's the big question. If he does, they'll be much higher than this. If he doesn't, they're going to be looking for a quarterback next year.
I mean, this year, if he don't ball out, you better believe Teddy Bridgewater will be inserted into the lineup. But I'm still surprised to see you have the Miami Dolphins 23 based on all the moves. I think they had one of the more successful offseason seasons throughout the NFL with some of the things they did via free agency and then, of course, the draft. So, yes, I'm right there with you. All the pressure. I think Tua has the most pressure out of any quarterback in the National Football League. Can he handle that pressure and deliver week in and week out? We have to wait and see.
Let's go to the Seahawks coming in at number 24. B-Mac, I got to talk to you about the Seahawks because Russell Wilson now down in Denver, your guy. They didn't take a quarterback in the draft. Is this too high for the Seahawks at 24? Is this about right for them?
Yes, it's too high. Pete, what are you thinking? What are you doing? 24? A team that is tanking like an NBA team. I don't know exactly which quarterback they're tanking for in next year's draft, but they're tanking for one of them, and you had them number 24. A very, very confusing draft, to say the least. The offseason was a little confusing. Granted, they got some nice pieces in return in trading away Russell Wilson, but this is a team from the personnel side of things. They're not as talented as some of the teams they will see in their division, let alone the entire NFL. And then the quarterback, both guys, Geno Smith, Drew Lock, have been extremely inconsistent throughout their professional career. Why should we believe that they will be consistent now? I don't think so. So me personally, I'm surprised to see them at 24.
Pete, really quickly, why are they at 24?
Take a look at the teams behind them. Who are they better than? Who's better than them? The Giants, the Jaguars, the Bears, the Lions, the Jets, the Panthers, the Texans, or the Falcons? Which one, B-Mac? Who's better?
The Lions will be better. The Jaguars will be better.
Please.
The Giants will be better than the Seahawks this year.
Let's go to the Giants at 25. Pete gave them a B+ for their draft, but says none of it matters. Pete Prisco if Daniel Jones cannot step up.
Correct, and you nailed it. And look, I am a guy that thinks Daniel Jones will be better. The offensive line will be better. I mean, when you get Evan Neal to play right tackle, that's a big addition. Now you have a bookend tackles. They'll protect him. He's taken a beating over the years. But much like the Dolphins, this is all about Daniel Jones. Go play. Become a force. Become a factor. I think getting Thibodeau on defense will liven up the pass rush, give him two guys who can rush the passer with Ojulari, so they'll be better on that side of the ball. But again, Daniel Jones, it's all about you. And look at that division. They're clearly the fourth team in that division.
Let's go to the Jags coming in at number 26. Pete Prisco. Let's talk about the Jags. 2 back-to-back first overall picks in the draft. They have now added talent in the offseason. You got a new head coach, so that drama's gone. How do they put it all together?
Well, I think that's the issue here is can they put it all together? Are they ready to win? There's a lot of young guys who will be playing a lot of football for that team. There's still some uncertainty at running back. Etienne's coming off the injury. It's a foot injury. That's always concerning. James Robinson, Achilles tendon injury. Have they done enough at receiver to scare people? I think Trevor Lawrence will be better. He should take the next step. And defensively, they've added some nice pieces. I mean, you saw that in the draft. They drafted 2 linebackers, including going up to get Lloyd. You get Walker up front. They're going to be tough and physical. They have a good secondary. But again, have they done enough offensively? And does this team know how to win? That's the question.
Coming in at number 27, we have the Bears. Pete gave them a D for their draft to B-Mac. Another team with the new head coach, but not a ton of help for Justin Fields. What do you think about the Bears coming in at 27?
Yeah, I'm surprised at 27. I thought it would be lower. And I agree with Pete. When you look at their draft, they had so many holes they needed to fill, but not enough picks. But they decided to vote most of those picks to the defensive side. I mean, you got a young quarterback. Look at his pass catchers. Darnell Mooney is the most experienced wide receiver he has. And then I guess his second best pass catching option would be Cole Kmet. So me personally, it's going to be a long year for the Chicago Bears fans, based on some of the teams in the division and how much they improved compared to what the Bears didn't do.
Let's welcome back in Pete Prisco and Bryant McFadden. Let's pick up with the Lions. Pete, coming in at number 28 on your list. Look, this is the longest team with the longest active drought without a playoff win. They have not won a playoff game since 1991. How much faith do you got in the Lions coming into this season?
Well, that streak's going to continue, but next year they will break it. How about that? I think when you look at what they're doing to build this roster, it's the right way to do it. You add Aiden Hutchinson and Jamison Williams, two dynamic players, one on defense, one on offense in the draft. And I think you have a lot of young guys heading in the right direction, and that's always a good thing. They've been drafting well. Dan Campbell's done a nice job. It's just not going to happen this year. It might happen next year.
Coming in at number 29, we got the Jets. Look, they got an A from Pete for their draft. And a lot of these teams with the young quarterback, it doesn't matter a whole bunch unless Zach Wilson can step up. B-Mac, is this one of those teams that you thought might be a little bit higher?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Jets, if Zach Wilson can develop and be consistent, the Jets could be like the Cincinnati Bengals from a year ago. Not saying they will get to a Super Bowl, but granted, will be more improved, more competitive, more consistent based on the moves they made via free agency and the moves they made over a week ago in the draft. So I love everything the Jets have been able to do. Being 29, like I said, I think they're better than the Chicago Bears. They should be ranked higher. Pete thinks otherwise, but I think they will be a very, very consistent, competitive team this year, especially if Zach Wilson just stay the course.
D-Mac, tell me your thoughts on the Panthers coming in at number 30.
I mean, I'm surprised to see the Panthers at 30 because, listen, their defense, when they were healthy a year ago, they were so consistent, creating turnovers, sacking the quarterbacks. And then, of course, everything went downhill when Christian McCaffrey went out with that injury. But if he is healthy, Sam Darnold will be a better quarterback. I'm not saying he's going to light everything up, but he will be a better quarterback along with the pass catchers that he has. So this is all about health on both sides of the football. So seeing him at 30, I'm a bit confused at that spot.
Worst odds to win the Super Bowl are the Texans, but as mentioned, they are not at the bottom of Pete's power rankings. They're coming in at number 31. Pete, they've officially moved on from Deshaun Watson. That is now behind them. It is Davis Mills' time. Can they improve from 31 moving forward?
By the way, real quick, if you move teams up, you do have to move a couple down, B-Mac. You have everybody moving up. You do have to move a couple down every now and then if you believe that they're better than where they should be. As for the Texans, the reason they're not last, I think Davis Mills is going to be a good quarterback. I really do. And Lovie Smith is a good football coach. They will be much better this year. I don't know how many games they're going to win, but maybe next year, you watch, they'll be pushing for a playoff berth because I think you're going to see Davis Mills develop into a top quarterback.
Pete, we have made it to the very bottom. Number 32, the worst team on your power rankings. You got the Falcons. Why?
Well, I think there's questions at quarterback, even though I do think Ritter will be their guy for the long run going forward. At some point during the season, he will take over. I don't think Marcus Mariota is that guy. They have questions, at receiver still, even though they drafted Drake London. They don't really scare down the field. He's almost a big body guy like Kyle Pitts. And then do they rush the passer well enough? I mean, that's the thing. And let's go back to what Matt Ryan did in the last couple of years. Took a beating. The offensive line hasn't protected anybody. So there's so many questions with this team. I think they're the worst team in the league right now. But you know what? They're getting out of cap hell. And next year they can spend a lot of money to try and fix this team.
Yeah, I don't have any arguments with the Falcons being 32. It's going to be a long year. They were cap stricken, couldn't do a lot when it came to free agents. And then, of course, with the draft, they had so many needs. I think they had a successful draft, but it's going to take some time for these draft picks to really emerge to be big-time contributors for this organization. It's going to be a long, long year. Wide receivers, they lack depth. The running back position, they lack depth. Offensive line has been inconsistent. Don't know who will rush the passer and create sacks for their defense. So it's going to be a long year. I can tell you that much. So I'm okay with them being 32.
Bryant McFadden, Pete Prisco, thank you so much. Pete, hang up your phone. Stop answering calls from everybody at work. Take a break. You have done so much work over the past couple of weeks there. BMAC, we'll talk to you soon. We're going to keep you on speed dial there. Guys, thanks again. Taking a look at the very bottom of Pete Prisco's power rankings. You got the Lions, Jets, Panthers, Texans, not at 32. That spot belongs to the Falcons, according to Pete Prisco, and Bryant McFadden says he agrees. Pick Six Podcast, everything for the NFL, your daily fix there. Latest episode, AFC draft grades, and our Bryant McFadden, if you didn't know, has his own podcast, All Things Covered with Bryant McFadden. Latest episode there with his cousin Patrick Peterson talking to Kaiir Elam on why he felt he was the best quarterback in the draft. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.